My Shit Life So Far by Frankie Boyle. Read by Angus King. This book contains some very strong language and occasional comments that some may find disturbing and which may cause offence. Introduction. I don't think anyone can have written an autobiography without at some point thinking, why would anyone want to know this shit? I've always read them thinking, I don't want to know where Steve Tyler grew up, just tell me how many groupies he fucked. I suppose I've just had to assume that anybody who buys this book has an interest in my life story, but I've covered myself by including long passages about all the groupies Steve Tyler has fucked. I've been careful not to get too nostalgic. It's the most retrograde, reality-denying emotion. How long before they'll be standing at a bus stop hearing someone moan, "Say what you like about Saddam, but that country's gone to hell without him." Saddam did at least make the trains run on time. It's just that they were death trains to death camps. To be honest, they were often late, but people were too scared to say anything. There's a fair bit of swearing in this book. I wasn't going to put any in at all, but then I thought, fuck it, these readers are cunts. I know there's an argument that swearing should only be used by a writer to underline a point that really demands it, or when strong emotions are in play. I think of this as a particularly English view, resting on the sad viewpoint that not much ever merits strong emotion or opinion. The whole debate is a bit pointless. I was in a hotel room recently, and a show came on where Frank Skinner was talking about swearing on TV. I switched over and had a half-hearted wank. I'm one of about 3 people in the country directly affected, and I switched over. I would have happily watched Frank Skinner talk about anything else, and I had a half-hearted wank over a presenter I know is a lesbian, for which I awarded myself double points. There's a genuine BBC directive that says you can't use fucking as a verb, but you can use it as an adjective. So now you have to say, do you know what's fucking great? Nookie. Ian Wright has criticised the BBC for dumbing down. I agree with him, but there'd be more weight to his argument if he'd stayed with the BBC. I'm glad he escaped from the relentless intellectual slide to present gladiators. This book isn't entirely accurate. I have changed all the names and occasionally tweaked the order of events. I've also lied quite a lot. My favourite autobiography is Clive James' brilliant Unreliable Memoirs. In the introduction he says that all the stuff that sounds true is made up, and all the unbelievable bits are true. I'm saying that too, stealing it from him. I also stole his Chapter 4, for anyone who wonders why I went to sixth form college in Australia. There are a few other instances of plagiarism. They're mostly just the bits where I'm solving mysteries in Victorian London. Also, there are a couple of blatant untruths. The 1988 Scottish Cup final was won by Celtic, rather than Dundee United, and I did not rape Tina Turner. Sadly, there are parts of my life that haven't made it into the book. In the 70s, I was involved in a top-secret project. I'm not really allowed to talk about it, but it was big. That's all I can tell you about Operation CIA-AIDS. I went to some CIA seminars to begin with, but I can't remember much about them. All I know is that any time I hear any of John Lennon's solo stuff, I go out and buy a harpoon. I still have the flask of Michael Jackson's DNA I stole for Operation Timberlake. His DNA wasn't hard to get. I dressed up as a schoolboy and hid the flask in my ass. I was also part of the plot to kill Castro, but it was impossible to get near him. I did manage to become his masseur, but even that he makes you do through a cat flap with a snooker rest. Being a special operative was a great job. How many people can say they got to meet all 3 Paul McCartneys? A lot of people wanted to strangle him after the frog chorus, but I was the one who actually got to do it. The CIA recruited me in an operation where they got prostitutes to spike people with acid and find out their secrets. They really had me over a barrel once they knew how much I liked to fuck prostitutes on acid. There are quite a few drug abuse stories coming up, but I do urge you all to use drugs with caution. For example, never take cocaine before a group therapy session. It's really hard to interrupt a discussion on incest with a great idea for a song. Also, never take opium suppositories. I've never been in a situation where I thought, you know what would make this better? Hallucinating out of my arsehole. Another part of my life I've not been able to talk about is when I was spiritual advisor to the England football team. I had to leave because I just couldn't handle their attitude to women. You've got to worry when the movie on the team bus is The Accused, but you had to admire the simplicity of
Sample complete. Ready to continue?